Hello, everybody. Today, our episode is going to be about daily rituals for emotional stability and grounded decision making. Now, I want you to remember, grounded, confident, and reflective, because most people think clarity comes from thinking harder, from pushing through, from making fast decisions. But what if clarity actually comes from slowing down, just enough to reconnect with yourself? Today's conversation is going to be about daily rituals, not as aesthetic routines, but as practical tools for emotional stability, grounded leadership, and better decisions. If you ever felt stuck in survival mode, reactive or disconnected from your intuition, this episode is definitely for you. Now, I have a very special guest I want to introduce you to. Now, Alicia Meek of Wild Moon Sacred Cycles. Alicia teaches rituals as a foundation for our nervous system regulation, self-trust, and aligned decision making, especially for women navigating stress, leadership, and identity shifts. Alicia, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm really excited to have you here. I think so many people are going to benefit from today's episode. And before we begin, I just want to remind everybody to stay with us. This conversation will give you the tools that you can use today, starting today. Now, Alicia, tell everybody a little about yourself and what you do. I'm really so excited to have you on this show today.
Yeah, thank you, Stacey. Thanks so much for having me. A little bit about me. I am a intuitive tarot and NLP practitioner. And so what that really means is that I take that woo-woo spiritual side and I mix it in with the practical and bring those two together because ultimately what I really want to be doing is helping women get their lives in alignment. Like what is it that you want in your life? Do you want the partnership? Do you want the career? Do you want the money? What is it that you want? Every single day you have a decision to step into that day and choose to act from the person that creates that life. But that is
Yeah.
such a hard thing to do. We as women were really exhausted, and so all of my work kind of centers towards that because I've done it for myself, because we've all had what we call threshold stories. And these are these stories that are the most difficult things that we've ever been through that we look back at now and we go, wow, I am actually kind of happy that this incredibly traumatic thing happened to me because now I have been put on the path where I'm living the life, or I'm on the way to living the life that I truly want. I'm creating that life and I feel more powerful. I feel more confident. And so years ago, 9 years ago, I started as a tarot reader, and I noticed that that became a little boring for me. So I started really studying psychology, and I got my counseling diploma, and I studied mindfulness and all of these things. And so I started to blend those two things together in my one-on-one practice. Skip forward a few years. Actually, the year that I met my now husband, we were only together for about 3 months. I had, and this is during COVID, so obviously a lot of stress, I had this massive nervous system breakdown. And I essentially started having 5 minute panic attacks multiple times a day. And I hid it from everybody. I didn't want to tell anybody. Alicia's strong. Alicia can do everything. Alicia's the one that helps other people. And so I just quietly started to break down. And one day I'm in the car with this new man and I'm trying to put my best face on because, he's a wonderful, wonderful man. And I see the potential in that future and I don't want to scare him off. But then I start having this panic attack. And literally, this panic attack lasts for over 8 weeks, day and
Wow.
night. I am having, and I'm not talking about an anxiety episode. I'm talking about full on panic. And something just happened in my body. A switch went off, and I could not handle the stress of COVID, the financial stress that I was experiencing, the stress with my company, the stress with all of the political things that were happening at the time as well. And I'm from Vancouver, and Vancouver is a very active in political debate. And if you're not on the right side and all of this kind of stuff, it was an extremely stressful time. And so I had this full breakdown, and I had to stop my company. I couldn't do one-on-ones for over 6 months. I stopped being a fitness instructor. I luckily this man held on to me. He did not let me go and he supported me through it. But after all of this, I had no self-confidence. I had no self-respect. I was devastated in so many ways, and I became this shell of myself, and I had to figure out how am I going to do this? How am I going to come back to myself? And so I started studying NLP, and for those who don't know, that's neuro linguistics programming. And I learned how you can actually reprogram and recode your own identity. And I needed to, what I thought at the time was get back to who I was, when really I needed to create a new self. And so I started to build these morning rituals so that every time I stepped out into the world, I was showing up as my best and highest self that deserved and was worthy and capable of all of the things that I wanted in life.
Yeah.
And and it worked. And it worked. And since then, that was probably 5, 6 years ago. And since then, I've integrated that with the majority of my one-on-one clients. And they have all seen massive transformation in their lives as well. Let's get them on track, on the track to where they want to go, as opposed to this exhausting track. Because there's all these women, they have so much potential. Let's work with that potential and let's figure out how you can come back to yourself on a daily basis. And you can literally do this in 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 2.5 hours. I do it as well. Sometimes I do it for 2 minutes in the car. I actually take my morning declaration, which I'd love to perform for you. My morning declaration, I put that into ChatGPT and I get ChatGPT to do that call and response with me. And so then
Hmm.
I'm in the car before I show up to a networking event or a socializing event or work or whatever it is that I'm doing. I want to show up as that strong, confident woman that is capable and not exhausted and not,
Yeah.
and not off track and not feeling self-doubt and criticism and all of these things. And in order for me to do that, I have to do this morning declaration that I have put. It's basically a series of affirmations, but put together specifically for what it is that I am trying to achieve in my life.
I love that. Now, we're living in a time where people feel overwhelmed, reactive, and disconnected from themselves. Why do you believe daily ritual is becoming so essential for emotional stability right now?
Absolutely, because we need to reconnect in with those pieces of ourselves. What are your values? Because when we go out into the world and we're tired and we're in a rush and we're stressed out and we're just trying to get through the day, and we don't even really realize that we're living in that from day to day, but so many women are living in that day to day. If you can take 5 minutes in the morning to reconnect back in with your values, what you're trying to create for yourself, what you're manifesting in your life, because you can manifest all you want, you can wish all you want, and you can visualize all you want, and those are really important pieces. But then you miss the piece of coding it into your unconscious so that your unconscious believes that you can achieve it, believes that you can do it. And then on top of that, you need to go out in the world and make all of your macro and micro decisions based off of that. Because
Yes.
when you go into the world and you go in stressed out, you're already tired, you're just like, oh, I just need to get to the end of this day, then you have missed a whole foundational brick of your foundation that you are trying to build for the life that you want. You have missed that opportunity. And this is the way that I look at it. When we take these daily rituals, which I think are very important to be morning rituals, very specifically before you step out into the world. There's different work that you can do in the afternoon and the evening to really reconnect with this, but it's very important in the morning that when you wake up, you are infusing this into yourself. And so that, like I said, every single decision that you make, every word that comes out of your mouth, one of the rituals in my course, Wild Rituals for Mornings That Change Your Life, is talking about language and the language that you use inside your mind and the language that you use with other people. And so that we're not going into this reactive state and we're not speaking from reaction. We're not acting from reaction from this impulsivity. And through that, we create these bricks that then stack on top of each other and create this really strong foundation. And the higher that they stack up, the higher that you get, and the closer you are to what it is that you want to create in your life. And so that's why we need to take this arrow that's pointing left and right, and no, let's get it pointing straight up, because straight up there is exactly what we want in our lives, the lives that we want to live, the lives that will be, contentment, not talking about perfection and experiencing happiness all of the time. But there
Yeah.
is a certain amount of success, a certain amount of money, a certain kind of partner, a certain kind of home. It was very important for me to get a rescue dog. It was very important for me to have a really strong partnership with a man that didn't want to go out and drink at night, that he wanted to
Yeah.
be home with me. And I took that arrow and I took my morning rituals and I pointed it towards that. And I experienced some hiccups along the way, such as a 8 week panic attack that destroyed my nervous system that I had to completely rebuild from. But I still managed to stay aligned with that as best I could. So we are not looking for perfection here.
Yeah.
We are looking for what is it that you have to give to that alignment and aligning with that in the morning so that you're not veering off and so that you can create that brick of this day that stacks on top of the next brick and you can create that life that you want. And a lot of the time, creating that life that you want is about the reprogramming of the identity. You need to know and believe that you are capable, you are confident, you can absolutely step into this day and be that best self and become that version of yourself that has all of these wonderful pieces.
I love that. That is so inspiring and so true. Now, you are very clear that rituals are not just pretty routines, that the difference between a ritual that actually grounds someone and and a routine that becomes another thing, on the to-do list. Can you go more into that and explain to people the differences, between the two?
Absolutely. So there's ritual and there's routine. And so there's the feminine and the masculine, and the feminine is we are these chaotic beings that go through this cycle. And we go through this cycle where some days we are so freaking happy to be here. And some days we are like, don't talk to me. Don't look at me. I want to stay in bed. I want to watch reality TV show. I want to eat popcorn all day and ice cream and whatnot. And that is not something that we should be fighting against. We should be
Yeah.
working with that. You need to know yourself. What is going to work for you? Because you do not need another masculine, overly practical morning routine that is impossible to keep up with and that stresses you out. So
Right.
this is where rituals come in. And I essentially give you this morning menu where you get to look through all of these different rituals and you go, what serves me today? What do I feel like I need today? And some days for me, it's just the morning declaration. And that's all that I might need that day.
Yeah.
And this is where you can, today, you can make your rituals and your morning practice 2 minutes. On a day that you have more time and you have more ease, you make it 5 minutes. And on some days that I have off, I make mine 2.5 hours. And that every once in a while that I do that 2.5 hours, it really sets the tone for a lot of the other ones and does the work ahead of times because tomorrow is only going to be 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And but you don't even need to do a 2.5 hour one. The most important one is the morning declaration. And this is what all the rituals kind of build up to. And in order to write this morning declaration, you need to take some time to really get clear on what it is that you want in life, what it is that you are trying to achieve, what version of it that you are trying to not become in the future, but become today. So here's a difference as well. Is like become that and be that today. You don't have to wait 6 months until you get a promotion or that you have more money or that man is in your life. No, you can show up as that person today.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between the ritual, which is more of the feminine, and we infuse the practical pieces with the woo woo. So it just creates this really cohesive and wonderful, movable in flow. It adapts with you. You don't adapt to it. While the masculine perspective is here is a set of things that you are going to do, and you're going to do them in this order, and you're going to do them for this long. That feels so stressful for me, and I'm going to avoid that.
I
So it's
love,
if it's okay with you, Stacey, I'd love to perform my morning declaration for you and your audience so that
I
you
would love
can
that.
really start to grasp the idea of what it is that I am trying to offer and accomplish through it.
Okay.
So, my morning declaration is something that I do every single morning. And depending on how I'm feeling that day, if I am feeling extra self critical or in self doubt, I'm going to take like a bit of a power pose. So, you take like this, it's known as the Superman pose as well.
Okay.
And I'm going to roll my shoulders back and I'm going to hold my body in a feeling of confidence. And then I'm going to say my morning declaration. I am a woman who wakes each morning feeling fully rested and alive in her purpose. My home is clean and beautiful, filled with love and calm energy. I nourish my mind, my body, and my spirit through movement, stillness, and mindset work. I create space to connect with the universe and prepare for a powerful day. My mornings are sacred and they shape and fuel my abundant life. I am the woman who holds wealth with grace and ease. I am deeply abundant emotionally, financially, and spiritually. I say yes and no with full authority, creating aligned opportunities. I welcome learning, I welcome effort, I welcome growth, and I release the fear of not knowing, and I learn quickly and with confidence. I am ready to work smarter and harder in all the right ways, and I rise to the challenge, and my capacity is growing every day. I am proud of the woman I am becoming through this work, and I am certain the universe's plan is unfolding perfectly for me right now, and I trust what I do not yet see. I am ready to receive what is meant for me today, and I choose to believe that it is all on its way to me now.
Oh, I love that. Now, how does starting the day with this ritual, like how does it help people change the way they think, the way they react, the way they lead?
Absolutely. So specifically, if we just took this morning declaration, and there's about 6 or 7 other rituals that you can do that I give you optional in a day that are
Hmm.
very, you can take this one out. You only got 2 minutes. Your morning declaration is the biggest part of that. And so when
Right.
you take this morning declaration and you speak it to yourself in this state of confidence, and you wave your hands around and you feel it and you
Yeah.
embrace it and you take it into yourself. Yes,
Hmm.
expansion, literally expansion. You are telling your unconscious mind, and your unconscious mind is also known as the ego. And the
Yeah.
unconscious mind is the one that's always whispering you, "Oh, that's not safe. Don't do that. Oh, don't assert yourself. Play nice, be the nice girl. Don't run out there and get all the things that you want because it's going to upset people." And so that's the ego, and it says you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough. So stay here and just be safe and just play small. When we speak that morning declaration, we're speaking that to our unconscious, and we are reprogramming that unconscious. And that is not something that you could do in an 8-hour workshop. So this is what kind of bothers me about other practitioners out there, that they come in for an 8-hour workshop and they get you all jazzed up, and then you go home and you're jazzed for like 24 hours and then it just fades away.
Yeah.
The point of the morning declaration and the point of doing it on a daily basis, let's say minimum 5 out of 7 days of the week. And some days I say it multiple times in the afternoon, in the evening, whatever it is that I need for that day. If I need to draw in more confidence for myself, I'm going to speak that more and more, because I am literally recoding my brain, my mind, my body, my unconscious to know that that is who I am, and that is who I'm going to show up, and that I can show up that way. And we need to, you heard in my morning declaration, I'm building that capacity and that capacity, because we can't just wake up tomorrow and be everything that we ever wanted ourselves to be and have. We're not ready to hold it. We're not ready to maintain it. We
Yeah.
need to work for that, and we need to recode ourselves on a daily basis and then prove to ourselves throughout the day, because saying your morning declaration, it sets this foundation for your day, that if you believe these things about yourself, if you know these things about yourself, if you're calling this in, then when you go to scream at the car that just cut you off and roll your window down and give them the finger, maybe you won't roll the window down and just give them you'll just scream in your car a little bit. I still do that, but I'm less road ragey than I was, because I catch myself now. I catch myself going, that is not what is building my brick for the day. That is not what's building my brick towards that alignment. And,
Yeah.
being sarcastic to somebody at work, you know, being reactive to your partner, being reactive to your friends, saying things that you don't necessarily mean, saying things out of defensiveness, that is
Hmm.
not helping you build those bricks. And so when we code this in, and it really, your morning declaration depends on what you want to create and what you want to draw into your life. And so if you listen to my declaration, you can see that what I'm trying to draw into my life. And so a lot of time in one-on-one sessions, in these I do these clarity rituals one-on-one with people, where we go in and we visualize, and then we create that morning declaration together. so that you can get really, really clear on what is it that you want? What does it look like? Okay, how do we build the morning declaration around that vision?
Hmm.
Or at least the first step towards that vision as well. I'm not sitting here in my morning declaration going, I want to be a billionaire and I am a woman that is a billionaire. I'm just broke right now. Like, and so there can be steps towards that as well, because we need to be reasonable with our brain. We don't want to create a false confidence. We want to create a real, grounded, foundational confidence that grows your capacity, that grows yourself, your inner self, and allows you to move forward into your day, into today, into the next week, into the next month, into the next year. And you are aligned and you are moving towards that life that you want. I am not promising that do this meditation and it's just going to show up for you. No, I'm going to show you a method where it becomes inevitable. It
I
becomes
love
inevitable if you build it. If you build it and you work with that, everything that you want is inevitable at that point. You are going to get there if you continue to work towards it.
love it. I love it. Now, one thing that really stands out is your emphasis on simple values check-ins. How does reconnecting with values eliminate chaotic or impulsive decision makings?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So if you think about your values, and values is kind of a word that's been lost in recent years. It was really associated with like religious values and
Yeah.
whatnot. Let's take that word back for ourselves, because what is important to me are my values. Connection with my husband is very important to me. So a connection with my friends is very important to me. So connection, that is a value for me. If I speak poorly to my husband or I overreact to my friends, that does
Mhm.
not build connection. Thusly, I have disconnected from my value. And I can go ahead and do that. I don't speak perfectly to my husband, of course not. But I'm going to come back to myself and I'm going to come back to my values. And I'm going to get better and better and as not showing up as an impulsive and reactive and defensive and exhausted and all of these things. I'm not going to show up as that person because I've now built that in and I've spent that time. So neurolinguistics programming is about pathways in the brain, right? And every time that I speak poorly to someone, I create that pathway that my reaction in the future is going to be to speak poorly to someone. And
Hmm.
speaking poorly to somebody is one of the biggest ways that you can shoot yourself in the foot on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
Is And I'm not talking about playing nice or being super nice I'm talking about healthy boundaries. If somebody comes at you with criticism, hold yourself, breathe, stay calm. If you need to go take a minute, go take a minute. But in that moment, if you decide to, well, this is what you did, and I'm doing this, and that is shooting yourself in the foot, and that is shooting your future self in the foot. And so
Yep.
that is one of the places that we need to come back to. So we all need to decide what our values are, code that in, program that in, create a new brain pathway that goes,
Hmm.
okay, maybe every once in a while I'm going to be that reactive self, but the majority of the time I'm going to come back to this other neural pathway that says, wait a minute. Before you speak the defensiveness, before you speak the projecting back to the other person in whatever experience this is. And this is just one example, but it's the easiest example because a lot of us are stepping into the world with impulsivity, with reactivity, with defensiveness. And are those your values? To react? To be defensive? No. So figure out what your values are and how to code that in, and then how to come back to yourself every time that you step away from that value, and then create a new neural pathway that eventually your mind just starts to go to the non reactive piece. And when I started to notice this in myself, I was like, I am so proud of myself for not overreacting in that moment when my husband said, honey, every single day you spread yourself out over the entire house and all of your stuff is everywhere. And in that moment, I was like, is he right? And I think I need some time to think about this. And I go, okay, honey, thank you. I'm going to think about that and try to get better at that or whatever. And I'm going to spend my time thinking about it and I'm going to revisit it later. That's what works for me. I need to spend at least 12 hours processing something before I can come back and be like, husband, you're 100% right. And he was 100% right. I spread myself out over the entire house.
Yeah.
And so when you first learn how to drive, it takes so much effort to not hit other cars. It takes so much effort. You have to think constantly, oh, and focus so much. But eventually you noticed with driving that eventually it became automatic. You're on
Yeah.
autopilot now. That is what happens with your values. If you come back to your values on a day-to-day basis and spend that time not hitting those values, not hitting
Hmm.
those cars, then eventually you are just live there. You just live in that autopilot of now this is how I respond and this is how I react and this is how I take space and time for myself if I need it. These are my healthy boundaries. Whatever it is that you need in your life, which healthy boundaries would be another great example, is it's a really hard to put up healthy boundaries in the beginning. There's a lot of
Yeah.
effort and focus that's going to have to go into that. But over time that you start using that and bringing that into your day-to-day life and reconnecting with that, let's say in the
Mhm.
morning with a morning ritual perhaps, then you
Right.
are going to bring that into your day and that's going to become autopilot. And then your life is going to change. Your life is literally going to change. Imagine if you went into every single day with these pieces that I'm talking about. Can you imagine what your day could look like 6 months from now when everything
Right.
has become autopilot and you do believe that you are a confident and capable woman?
I love
And
it.
I hope that answers your question. I just kind of go on about these things and it's because it's worked for me and it has worked for so many other women. And for me, this is the most surefire way to get there. This is the
Yeah.
most sure. There's so much other pieces that need to come into this, but this is the foundation. This is where it begins.
I love it. Now, so many people struggle to tell the difference between intuition, fear, and impulse. Like, how can the ritual help someone slow down enough to tell which voice they're actually hearing?
Absolutely. So when you reconnect in with, let's say it's your higher self, your best
Hmm.
self, when you reconnect in with that in the morning, then you are able to hear your own voice as opposed to the ego voice that's feeding you lack of self-confidence and self-doubt and all of those things. When you reconnect in with that more powerful true side of yourself, then you
Yeah.
are able to hear what people can call intuition, but you're also just able to hear your own voice as
Yeah.
opposed to, because your brain is like a hard drive and it has these programs running and you didn't put those programs in. You are programmed with an inner child and you're programmed with an ego, and there's not much that you can do about that.
Right.
You cannot take those out unless you get a lobotomy, I guess, but let's not use that as an option. So we have to learn how to be with those pieces of ourselves and be able
Yeah.
to determine the difference between the inner child is the one that goes, poor me, and why am I not getting what I want? And the ego is the one that goes, oh, don't say that or don't do that because it's, you might upset the person or the person might think you're overstepping or something like that. And so when you reconnect in the morning with the the true part of yourself, that higher self, your real voice, then
Hmm.
you can start to be able to know the difference between those pieces. And it's also in my work, I try to reflect back to people that voice that you're using right now, that's your inner child and that's your
Yeah.
ego. And here's your highest self. And so that you can learn over time what is the difference between these different voices that are happening inside of my head and inside of my body and causing reactions and responses and all kinds of thoughts and thoughts breed thoughts. How can I tell the difference between those so that I can start to come back to that higher self? And again, we come back to that linear alignment that moves from your center all the way up to where everything that you want is. And so we continue to align with that and learning that and being present with that on a daily basis and starting to understand, oh, yes, that's my ego. That's my ego talking now.
I love it. You talk about ritual as a way to shift out of survival mode and into grounded leadership. What does that transition actually look like in daily life?
So, grounded leadership is where you're really leading yourself. And you don't need me and you don't need a course and
Mhm.
you don't need to call three of your friends for ask advice from. Is that you really start to lead yourself in that, and that is because you have spent the time grounding on a daily basis so that you are
Yeah.
actually living from that grounded place.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can lead yourself, and then you can actually truly begin to lead others. Is because
Right.
the reason that I did not, after my panic attack, for 8 weeks, I didn't take on clients. I didn't do anything for over 6 months. And that's because I didn't have that grounded leadership for myself to
Mm-hmm.
be able to offer that to other people. And now I can truly say I've built that life. I'm speaking from experience. I'm living that experience. I'm living that life. And that is why I would consider myself, somewhat qualified to be able to lead other women into that as well. And especially if you're a woman that wants to be in leadership, you do need to be able to have that self leadership for yourself and be able to lead yourself and know from a grounded place how to make your decisions and what your decisions could be like.
Right. Totally. Now, you shared your own experience of your extended panic attack and rebuilding your nervous system through consistent ritual work. What did that journey teach you about self-trust and consistency?
Absolutely. So, in the time when I was having the panic attacks, I disconnected from my self trust. And I was trying to take this piece of me that was having these panic attacks and telling me that something wasn't right, that something was happening. And I chose to suppress that and push that away.
Hmm.
And so I lost my self trust because I lost a part of myself in that. We need to integrate our darkness. We need to integrate our inner child, our ego, all of these pieces of ourselves need to be present, and we need to be present with them. We can't go, "Oh, I don't like this piece of me that's having a panic attack every day. So I'm going to suppress it and put it away." Well, guess what? That piece then took over my entire life. And I wasn't just having panic attacks for 5 minutes a day anymore. It was 24/7. In my
Right.
dreams, I'm having panic attacks. Like I'm not sleeping, I'm waking up in full panic mode. And so I
Yeah.
had disconnected from that trust, from that piece of myself. And these rituals allow you to come into a place where you start to witness yourself on a daily basis. Can
Right.
everybody listening to this podcast truly tell me that every single day they take a moment to witness themselves, witness their thoughts, their feelings, what's coming up for them, what it is that they're wanting, what it is that they're not wanting? Have you spent any time with yourself in that today? Because here's what dissociation from that looks like, and probably this is what I was doing at the time, is I would have a drink, I would
Hmm.
put Netflix on so that I couldn't hear myself anymore. Let's
Right.
take some time to rebuild in hearing ourselves on a daily basis so that we can come to that self trust again. And then we
Hmm.
can start to lead ourselves as opposed to walking into each day going, I'm exhausted and I'm going to do the best that I can. But the best that you can from that place is not what builds bricks, it's not
Right.
what builds foundation.
Hmm. So true. So true. Now, if there's one simple ritual or practice listeners can start today to feel more grounded and clear, what would you recommend?
I would love to see everybody get on the morning declaration. Of course, I would love for you to create a morning declaration. So I do have a little freebie with three of the morning, I call them morning habits before you build them into a ritual and build them into a morning practice. And so I believe Stacey's going to have that in the show notes so that you can go and get that freebie and you can start to understand these ritual pieces. One of the very first ones of the entire day is called the half awake affirmations. And so, that time when you are waking up and you realize, I'm not awake, but I'm also not asleep anymore. And you're in this half awake state. This is actually the best state. So this is a meditative state. This is a hypnosis state. This is
Mm-hmm.
the best state to start reprogramming that unconscious mind. And so when I was coming out of my panic attack period, I'd notice in this state that I was sitting there going, "Oh, I'm going to have a terrible day. I'm going to be so exhausted. I got no sleep. My life is destroyed. This man is going to leave me." And so I had to actively go in and change those affirmations. And
Right.
so I chose them while I was awake. And I said, I'm going to talk to my mind and my body with love. And I'm going to say, I'm going to have a great day. I love myself. I love my body. I love my life. I love that this man is in my life. I love the work that I'm doing. I'm so proud of myself for the way that I've moved forward. And so these are the half awake affirmations. So this is something that you can do tomorrow morning without even fully understanding what a morning declaration is, you can take these half awake affirmations, get an understanding of when you're in that state, and
Mhm.
start to program your mind for what it is that you're trying to accomplish. If you have low self confidence, get some confirmation affirmations that you can put into that time. And so before you wake up, you have already created a foundation of self love and belief and confidence.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. Now, tell us a little about your services and what you provide.
Mm-hmm. I have a variety of services that I offer. So I have a one-on-one sessions that I do with people, and I call that Insight Tarot. And this is where we pull cards to get really deep insight into what's going on in your life, what blockages may you be experiences, what are your spirit guides want you to know. And this really helps you to build towards creating more of the practical piece. So we're going to take this woo woo with our intuitive tarot, and then we're going to move into that NLP, more of that practical piece, and start building something. Because what I noticed in one-on-ones early in my career is that people, yeah, tell me this answer, Alicia. Okay, you gave me the answer. Well, what do I do with that? So I spent the time to figure that out. So when you are coming into a one-on-one session with me, I do have the diplomas, I do have the experience in counseling and psychology and all of these pieces to be able to help you ground whatever insight came through that, and help you to move forward and figure out something for you solid, practical, that you can start to move forward in your life with that. So those are my one-on-one sessions. And then I also have my course right now, which is only $17, and that is Wild Rituals for Mornings That Change Your Life. And it is life changing. It's changed my life, it's changed my clients' lives. And so those are my two main offers at the moment, is
I love it.
one-on-one sessions and this course that I would love for more people to experience and integrate into their life and be able to see the transformation that that can create.
The amazing thing too is that people don't realize, but you only need a few minutes per day and to do, to take yourself away from the world and to really focus on your inner self. And if you could do that and you could focus on the spiritual world, you could focus on your heart, you could focus on your inner self and what the messages that your inner self is trying to give you. Those few minutes, just meditating, just taking time out to do the declarations that you were mentioning and to do whatever, works for you. It could change your life around. And, you don't, like you said, some people meditate and they do different techniques to help themselves and they can go for 2.5 hours. Some people just need 7 minutes. Some people need five. Sometimes it varies, depending on what your schedule is. But just, if you could take some time during the day, and I always suggest, I love the morning because that resets and renews your whole day. That's all you need. Now, I know you said that you have also social media that you're on too, that people can connect with you. Where can they find you on social media?
Absolutely. I am most active on Instagram, and my handle on there is Wild and Sacred with Alicia. And a lot of my posts are little tidbits and tips and tricks, and showing you what my morning rituals look like. Yeah, lots of good, valuable information on there if you want to join me on there as well.
I love it. I love it. Now, this conversation, I want everyone to know it is very powerful. And if it has helped you or made you feel calmer or clearer or more connected to yourself, I want you to follow the advisor with Stacey Chillemi. Every episode here is to help you regulate, realign, and lead life with intention. And I also want you to go see Alicia because Alicia has some great stuff on her website, on her social media, and it's just outstanding. So, take some time out for yourself because one thing I've noticed in life is that we always tend to neglect ourselves. But remember the old saying, if you don't take the mask on the airplane and put it on yourself, you can't help others. So help yourself today. Start today. Don't say I'm going to do it tomorrow. Start today and just start making a new lifestyle change. And it's not a habit, it's a lifestyle change that could change your life forever. Alicia, thank you so much for being on the show. You were just amazing. I love all the information you gave today. It was so powerful, so amazing, and so well detailed. I think the information you provided can really help change people's lives. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing everything, sharing your knowledge and just your wisdom with others. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Stacey.
Oh, you're so welcome. You have a great day.
You too.